a huge management lesson for me that I think has carried on beyond management, but in relationships with my colleagues overall, is you can't use a one-size-fits-all approach. And people are different. They get managed differently. They are motivated differently. They turn their work product in differently. And none of that is wrong. It's just different.
Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a podcast about women who work in sports. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake. After 15 years of working for 3 major league teams, including the Boston Red Sox, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Chicago Cubs, I discovered the one thing I loved the most was helping women in sports shatter glass ceilings and take their seat at the table. I loved it so much that I made a business out of it. I have the honor of coaching high-performing women in the sports and entertainment industry and supporting them as they go after exactly what they want in their career. So if you are feeling tired of waiting on the sidelines, done being overlooked for promotions, and you're ready to pull ahead of the pack and take your career to the next level, girl, I'm here for it. I also created the Game of Her Own podcast to support you as well. We are here to share the stories of incredible women who work in sports and entertainment. These leaders and trailblazers will inspire you with their success and the lessons they've learned along the way to the top. Ladies, there is nothing like women empowering women. I am so honored you're here. One of my favorite parts of doing this podcast is catching up with old colleagues, especially those that I met early in their career. I love hearing all about their growth over the years. I met my next guest when we both worked for the Dodgers, where she was the supervisor of premium services. Now, Caroline Ships is vice president of premium and member services for the New York Islanders in UBS Arena. Friends, I cannot wait for you to hear the lessons Caroline shares. She gets super candid and talks about how a failure in being a manager led to her becoming an even stronger one. She talks about how she learned to delegate, why she put her trust in her new team, why she believes you need to find your allies, and how to find ones that you can trust. Now, y'all know I love talking about networking. Caroline shares how networking helped her land all of her jobs, including her very first job in sports. All right, Game of Her Own listeners, it is time. Let's do this. Caroline, I'm so excited. Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So before we dig into your past and how you got to where you are now, take us back in time and tell us when you first fell in love with sports.
So I became the manager of my middle school football team because my mom wouldn't let me join the team. I wanted to play. She said, no, you will die because you are 4 feet nothing. So how could I be involved in the team as much as possible, but not playing? And I went to the coaches and told them I wanted to be the manager and continued as manager of the football team throughout my senior year of high school. So from 8th grade through senior year, I was head manager of the team and just fell in love with it, being part of the sport and the organization, and just knew that I wanted to continue that in some way and work in sports if I couldn't play football.
Sorry, I'm still laughing at your mom's reaction. Like, no, you will die. Not. Like, this is not about equity. This is about like my daughter living.
Yep.
I mean, I think she made the right decision.
I was quite small.
So funny. Now, what got you into football?
So we grew up in State College, Pennsylvania, where Penn State is, and next door neighbor was the offensive coordinator for Penn State with 4 boys. I was the only girl in the neighborhood, and so grew up every day after school going to their backyard and playing every sport, wiffle ball, basketball, baseball, football. But the coach taught me how to throw a spiral and really got me to just love football. My older brothers played football as well. So that was just always my first love, was football beyond anything else.
I love that story. Tell us, when did you decide you wanted to work in sports? Was that always in the back of your head? Did you know that it was a possibility?
So I actually also had a very, very strange childhood where I did a lot of acting. So I was in a lot of theaters and student films at Penn State, and thought that was kind of my dream career, was to be an actress. And then when I started managing the football team, I had to kind of decide between schedules. I couldn't go to theater practice every day and also do the football team, and pivoted then and chose sports, and knew that I just loved being around sports. I played basketball too in middle school and high school, and softball as well, but knew that that was kind of where I wanted my focus to be. And then in college, second day of school, had a meeting with the athletic director from a connection through my coaching staff at Penn State that I knew pretty well. And he gave me a job in the athletic office that day, just kind of as a gopher, putting mailings together, answering the phone, and kind of expanded throughout college in different departments there, and really grew my love of working in sports and figuring out exactly what I wanted to do by going through all the different departments there too.
Oh, so you had this dream of being an actress.
Yeah.
And probably like being like, as all kids do, like dreaming about being in the movies or famous and all this stuff. And then you were like, nah, I like sports way too much.
One of my brothers is a pretty successful film director. So he said to scratch the itch, he'll put me in one of his movies at some point, since to go back from my acting days.
If you ever want to go back, you have the connection. That is perfect.
Yep.
When did you make that decision? Like, okay, now I'm in college. I got a job in sports. This is it. This is what I want to do. Like, did you have that plan where you're like, when you're in college, like everything seems possible and everyone's still telling you can do whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? When you grow up, I'm doing air quotes, but like, when did you have that moment? Like, all right, this is it. This is my career.
Yeah, I honestly don't know that I ever really considered anything else. I mean, you go to the career fairs in college and you're getting all the water bottles and the tchotchkes from like DSW and Abercrombie and all the brands that are there for the career fair trying to pull you out. But it was never something that I actually put any real thought to. I was working in the athletic department. I started working for a minor league team during college, and then I started interning with the Cincinnati Reds while I was still in school as well. So I just knew that I wanted to keep doing that. And so I just kept finding opportunities for myself to stay in sports. I think the path within sports was what I was trying to figure out, but it was never, where do I want my career to go? Do I want to be in marketing or communications, or what corporate company do I want to work for? It was always, no, what team do I want to work for? And what do I want to do for that team? So I don't know that I ever really considered anything else. It was then just kind of fine tuning within sports what I wanted to do. And so I did internships in retail and promotional events and marketing, and then had a random opportunity within premium service. And that's really when I fell in love with the high-end customer service side of things, and was like, okay, this is my path. This is the route that I want to go.
Tell everybody what you do now and who you do it for.
Yeah, so I am the vice president of premium and member services for UBS Arena and the New York Islanders. So I'm a unique shared services employee where I work for UBS Arena, but also the New York Islanders. So brand new arena that we just opened in November on Long Island. I oversee all season ticket service as well as all the premium client service. So general season ticket holders that you expect at any sports team, as well as the premium side of things. So all of the club spaces and luxury suites, all of the clients that sign multi-year contracts with us, just enhancing their experience, account management, just providing them kind of a really high-end, unique experience at UBS Arena.
Man, all right. So you started off as an intern, like it's a big job. And we've had the pleasure of working together for 2 teams. Like looking back though, like I was like, gosh, that seems so long ago. It was so quick. You know what I mean? Like as your career grows, you're like, oh, that was just like a little blip. But at the time, for both of us, we were like, I mean, we were in it and working and going after what we wanted. So we got to spend some time together with the Dodgers and the Cubs. But where did you start as an intern again?
My first stint was with minor league baseball in State College, Pennsylvania, with the State College Spikes. But I was doing kind of a merchandise retail job with them, working in the team store and just helping with some kind of in-game promotion stuff. But my first real internship was with the Cincinnati Reds in their promotional events department. And then my second role with the Reds was in premium seating, which is really where I kind of fell in love with the customer service side of things.
You said something really interesting. I mean, everything you're saying is interesting. But one thing that stood out to me is you talked about the fine tuning, like what you were going to do in sports. So now you're like, I don't know another world.
Yeah.
Like this is it. So it's trying to figure out what it is within this industry. Like, how did you go about doing that? Like, was that hard, scary? What was it like?
I think some of it had to do with the courses I was taking in college. When I was starting out, I think everyone who works in sports, it's one of my biggest pet peeves now that I understand it, but everyone says, I want to work in sports marketing. Like nobody actually knows what that means. They just say, I want to work in sports marketing. And when I actually learned what sports marketing is, I realized I have no desire to research zip codes and like wealth numbers of people buying tickets, and all of the research side of marketing was not something I was interested in at all. And my marketing courses at Miami University in Ohio taught me that and taught me like what marketing is. And I just was not interested in that side of things. I loved the experience side of it. So I loved the promotional event side where I was dealing with the lucky fan and first pitch, national anthem singer. So I loved the experience. And I think that really kind of parlayed into the customer service role that I was given at the Reds as well, because it's about creating the experience, and it's creating these high-end experiences for these clients who are spending an obscene amount of money and are expecting a very high-end experience and deserve it. And so it's helping to kind of curate that and really understanding why they're spending money with you, what they're looking to get out of it, and grow that personal relationship with them so that you can deliver that. And that's what I loved. It was kind of a merging of the experience side of marketing and the relationship side of customer service that really made me realize the path that I wanted to go down.
All right. So now you figured out what you want to do. I remember when I figured out like that was it. I had that similar like, oh, sports marketing or just marketing in general.
Right.
I kept saying PR because I saw a movie and like it sounded really cool, but I really had no idea how to like what it was. Then I realized it was the experience. So we're very similar in that regard. Like I wanted to work in fan experience. I wanted to make sure everyone had an incredible experience from start to finish. But then it's like, okay, that's what you want to do. How did you do it? Like, right. How do you, I mean, you're an executive in sports. So what was it like? Talk about your path. I know it's a broad question, but talk about your path a little bit, just going from, especially from the Dodgers, right? Where you were coordinator, supervisor, and then you moved to the Cubs as a manager and then an assistant director.
Yep.
Yeah. Talk about what that was like, really just going after what you want.
I think it goes back to the relationship development and networking, which is obviously a huge thing that they stress in this industry and any industry really. But I only got the interview with the Dodgers because someone there used to work for the Reds. And so I got my resume looked at with that connection. I got the interview with the Cubs after the Dodgers because of a relationship that I had developed with their head of sales, who also went to Miami University, and I did a client trip out to Chicago with the Dodgers, made sure to connect with him. So I kept.
Are you talking about Andy?
Andy Blackburn, yes.
That's one of my favorite people. I was like, wait, are you talking about one of my favorite people?
Sure. So kept my relationship with Andy and got the interview with the Cubs because of that. And then same thing with New York. I mean, the relationships, I used my network to kind of connect with some people that I knew were out here, not necessarily at the Islanders, but at MSG that knew people at the Islanders, and used my connections to kind of continue building my career through that. But I think it's exposing yourself to different areas of the business and developing those relationships and really just expanding your knowledge base and your skill set, because you're not siloing yourself into your job only, but you're exposing yourself to other areas within the organization and then growing your base and your skill sets.
The networking part is just such a no-brainer. Like, right. And like looking back, you're like, oh, this person, I got this offer because of this person. At the time you were networking, you probably had no idea that was going to come about. Right. Like you were just doing your thing. Like when you were playing sports in the backyard with your neighbor, like you didn't realize that was going to be to help your career when you first got to college. It's all about that relationship marketing, really. Right. And you don't even realize that. Yeah. Sometimes you don't even realize that you're doing it, but just even going and seeing Andy when you were in Chicago. Now he's a fun person to go see. So it makes it a lot easier, but like, it's just great to keep in touch. And then wow, something opened up and you were the right fit for it. Okay. So you make this jump from assistant director to a vice president. Just tell us, like, were you nervous? Were you scared? Like, take us through the process when you first heard about the job.
Of course. Well, it was interesting too, because when I first started interviewing actually for the job, it was just VP of premium. So the season ticket member side of it wasn't even part of it. I think it was halfway through my interview process. All of a sudden, the title of the role in my Zoom meetings changed. And I was like, oh, what does this mean? And they're like, and they said, oh, we want you to actually oversee another department too. And I was like, great. And so for me, it was exciting, but also nerve-wracking because it's a whole additional 10, 12 people that are going to be reporting to you. And it's a whole nother department. So yes, there's so much crossover regardless with season ticket service and premium service. And it's one large service team and department. But I think just knowing that additional responsibility was scary. And it was, but equally scary as exciting. I think it was, I'm for this. I have conquered the premium service world and I'm ready for more and I'm ready to take on more. And this is more. Like, this is what I've been looking for and wanting to do, but it's a lot. It's scary. It's a brand new city. I'm moving my husband and my dog to a new city and a new state and for the ride. And so it's a big jump, but I knew that I was ready. I knew that I was ready for more.
Let me ask you this. How long did you sit on that? Do you know what I mean when I say that? Like, sometimes people, like, I know when I was ready for more, when I first started my career, it was like a year would go by and I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, you keep go already. Make the move. How long did you sit on that before you were like, I'm going, like, this is it?
I think probably a year and a half too. I think I love the Chicago Cubs organization, love the people that I work for, have nothing bad to say about them, but I had kind of gotten everything that I could out of my current role there. And I think I was trying to find new opportunities for myself there and find ways for myself to stay there. And then COVID hit. So that kind of put everything on pause. So I knew before COVID that I was ready for more and that I was going to start trying to put some opportunities in front of myself there to continue to grow there. And that really put everything on pause. And then it was just, I just need to stay employed. I just need to keep my job. And it was me just being grateful for what I had and not getting laid off and seeing so many of my colleagues across the industry going through that. So that kind of paused everything for me and paused the search, if you will, for the next opportunity. And then once we started to come out of it, we haven't come out of it, but once things started to open up and get better, that was when I was able to kind of refocus on the future for myself and decide whether there was something more in my current position and at my current organization, or if I should look elsewhere. And that's when it kind of just became apparent that I needed to branch out to be able to continue to grow.
I love that. And I hope that women or men who are listening and are struggling with that, okay, I want to go, but I want to grow, right? That's my goal here is, and for you, right? Your goal is growth. Yes. And you tried to find it within because you liked where you were. It wasn't there. It's all about timing, right? I always tell people it's all about the timing. So it wasn't there. So you looked elsewhere and you didn't let the thought of your boss feeling like letting down your boss. I hear that a lot. Yeah. Right. Yeah. People, did you struggle with that at all?
Oh, absolutely. I did. I told him a lot, my direct boss at the Cubs, I told him it was hard for me to leave him. And I think I put together a 5-page document of everything that I did for him because I just wanted to leave him in the best place possible because I cared so much. I'd been there for 7 years. And I think it just shows that if I didn't care about the organization and the people, then I would have just peaced out and taken my new opportunity. But I think it says a lot about your employers when you do care and it makes it harder to leave because of the people and the organization. But to your point, I knew that growth for me wasn't there. And so I was going to have to make the hard decision to find it elsewhere.
There's that. And I'm sure your boss, your direct, boss really appreciated that 5-page document. There's things you can do to show your appreciation. Don't stay in a job because you're afraid that you're going to let someone down. Right.
Yeah. And I think I did that. I did it, but it was compounded by COVID. There was other reasons I was staying, but then it just got that I was bored. I mean, every day I could do this job with my eyes closed and I'm bored. And that's not a position that I want to be in. I'm young and I don't have kids yet. And so I'm not ready to be bored in a job. I want to be challenged.
Your job is intense. I mean, you're dealing with everyone's an important customer, but sometimes, you have people who spend more money and, you're working with premium guests and our schedule. Oh, I guess I don't have a schedule anymore. I don't work in baseball anymore, but your schedule can be a little hectic. Talk about how you've always managed to have balance, or did you always manage to have balance?
I think with something like what I'm doing now, I have to set expectations for myself and understand that opening a brand new arena, work-life balance may not be there right away, but it will get there. So I think it's knowing that, and knowing that the hours are going to be very long in the beginning, and there's a lot to set up for success. But I personally thrive off of that. I thrive off of having so much on my plate and not enough time to do it. And I know that sounds crazy, but I don't know that I'm cut out for a normal 9-to-5 office job, because I just love the thrill and the excitement and of so much going on at once, and every day not being monotonous and the same. So for me, it was setting the expectations, taking this job, like, okay, it's going to be a tough first year, but things will get better, and things will get better once the arena opens. And it already has. I mean, I think just my schedule now, before the arena opened, I was working till midnight every single night. And now I turn my computer off and I go have dinner with my husband, and I can relax a little bit, because we set ourselves up for success by planning and working together and delegating. Delegating is a big thing I learned as I started out in my career. That was me at first, but now I focus on that a lot more. So yeah, I think it's just setting the expectations for yourself and the goals for timing of when you can expect things to kind of get a little bit more calm, and then forcing yourself to turn your computer off or not look at your phone and be present with your family and your friends. And yeah, it's a little bit of self-discipline that makes you do that, but it's worth it, and it's necessary for mental health and to be able to continue on in this world.
100% preach. But talk to me. You said delegating, and you're laughing when you say it. You're like, I learned I had to delegate, like opening a new arena, moving to a new town, new city, like how did you manage? Like, were you not delegating and then you learned the hard way that you needed to do it?
Early on in my career, 100%, I was not delegating. Okay. That was a big learning opportunity for me. I think as I started out in management, I was very much of the wrong mindset. The only correct way for something to be done is if I do it myself. That's not accurate. And so I learned delegating, and having someone do something differently can still be right, even though it's not the same way that you did it, and you can still get success. So that is something that I definitely learned early on. But I think with this role, it was difficult because I came in and I didn't know anyone. There was already this team that I inherited, for lack of better words. And I had to just trust. I had to trust that they were hired for a reason before I was there, and that they knew what they were doing. And so there was a lot of just kind of me focusing on that, and focusing on the fact that I should trust them because other people hired them and trusted them to do their job. So asking for help when you need it, and it's not always the easiest thing to do, but you're not going to succeed if you try and do it all yourself.
Yes. I mean, anyone who's listening, there's always like a part when someone said something, I'm like, that right there, like that's important. And also the trust. So to me, you have a new team, you're coming in, you inherited this team, and you just told yourself, well, they were hired for a reason, so I'm going to have to trust them. So tell me if I'm wrong here, but that probably helped you tremendously, is just giving them the trust and like right away, and then letting them prove you wrong isn't the right thing to say, but here, you guys do your job, and we all have a job to do. You all want to do your job. If you don't meet the expectations that I've set up, that's another story. But right now it's easier for me to think that you're going to crush it.
Mm-hmm. And they'd been doing it. I mean, they had been hired much longer before I was. And so they knew who to go to ask what questions. And they knew the products that we were selling. I didn't. I had to learn from them. So I had to trust them because they were the ones teaching me and ones that I needed to rely on to even just learn the organization.
Mm-hmm. That had to make them trust you more too.
I hope so.
Good point. They're not on here, but I have to imagine, right? Like that, just thinking about being in their shoes in the past in my career, when someone new comes in, and it sounds like to me, like you just kind of came in and you weren't, if you were going to trust them, there's not that, I'm making assumptions here, but there's not that level of micromanagement.
Right. For sure.
When you trust somebody, right? That seems to be the thought, right? And that makes me like, if someone does that, I'm like, oh, well, now I don't want to let them down. They have given me the benefit of the doubt. They're going to let me show them what I'm made of, and they trust me. So I almost want to work harder.
Yeah. I think in any new role, you need to spend a good amount of time absorbing and learning and seeing where the strengths are and where the areas of improvement are that you could then contribute to, because you can't just come in and bulldoze and start changing things when you really have not sat there and learned what is working and what is not working. So I think you need to take the time to truly understand it before you can start implementing your plan, because your plan is going to change. I mean, things that I thought were necessary or thought that we could do, I learned, no, we actually can't do this for whatever reason, or no, this actually is working pretty great already and I don't need to change it at all.
Hey, Game of Her Own listeners, it is back. I'm talking about the Be Seen and Heard at Work group coaching experience. I'm talking about the program that will help you level up in your career. Women have joined this program because they have felt defeated, not being able to move their career to the next level. They have felt emotionally drained because they are stuck. They have felt frustrated because they are not seen and heard at work. They are done with not growing in their careers and refuse to continue to let it negatively impact their personal lives. In our group coaching program, you will build a strong executive presence, learn how to advocate for yourself without feeling like you're bragging, quiet the self-doubt that holds you back, and be the change agent that uses their voice and speaks truth to power. If you want early access to this program, join the waiting list. It is that simple. Scroll down to the bottom of the show notes to where it says join the Be Seen and Heard waiting list. Click it. It takes legit less than 30 seconds to sign up. All right, friends, back to why you're really here. Talk to me a little bit about internal politics. I'm really, early in my career, I hated them and tried to avoid it anytime I possibly could. And I always had, I like to say, that muscle of my boss or my boss's boss in front of me, and I could avoid it and just go do my job. But when you go in on an executive level, right, or even when you got to the Cubs, like that internal politics, especially with opening arena, obviously, we don't have to spill any tea here, but like how did you deal? How did you manage with that? Like any good lessons learned when you started?
I think you have to find your allies early on. I think that's super important to me and very helpful in my current roles. The UBS Arena and New York Islanders have a very unique setup where there are multiple companies or organizations, if you will, that are involved in the opening. So there's Value Retail, who did this incredible design and merchandise program and focused so much on just the experience of UBS Arena for everyone that's entering. And then you have New York Islanders and you have UBS Arena employees and you have Oakview Group and you have all of these different companies that are involved and have just as much stake in the success of the opening as each other does. And so there was so much navigating to do and understanding who does what and who do I go to for what and who do I need to run this by, whether they actually need to know or not, or they just want to know because they want to be involved. There's a lot of that. It's just making sure someone's in the room, even if they don't actually need to be there. So there was a lot of navigating internal politics with that because there were so many cooks in the kitchen, if you will. So early on, I really learned who my allies were and who the people I could go to and just ask the very blunt questions without any fear of it getting further than that conversation, and just really learning personalities and what I needed to know that was not going to be explicitly told to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There's like a lot of unspoken weird rules and like things and, and like
history, so much history that I wasn't part of. So it's learning that and not setting yourself up for failure because you didn't know the reason behind all of these decisions that were made. So there was a lot of side conversations I was having where I was trying to understand that and make sure that I knew the background stories of everything.
This may be a hard question. Look at me trying to come with the hard-hitting questions, but how do you find allies that you can trust?
It's hard. I think I have two bosses and I think they did a really good job of telling me who to go to and introducing me to those people early on as well. I think you have kind of gut senses about people regardless when you first meet them. And I knew that my two bosses were people that I could trust and rely on and that had my back from the start. And so I knew that I could trust what they were telling me and the people that they were telling me to go to and kind of befriend, if you will, within the organization. So they were a huge help, but I think without them, it's really just trusting your gut and seeing the people that make an effort to include you from the start and make an effort to offer their help. I think that says a lot as well.
I think that's great advice, because it's one thing to say, go find your allies. I'm a very trusting person and I've gotten burned a lot, but it's part of like life and it happens. But I think it's great for people to hear what your process was to find some trusted allies, to find your trusted, to trust your team. That seems to be a common theme here for you, is trust throughout your entire career. So you've had an incredible career and everyone knows, you learn a lot from your failures. Do you have, I'm totally stealing Tim Ferriss's question here, but do you have a favorite failure that's kind of helped you throughout your career?
It's a great question. And I have thought about this a lot. I feel like it changes based on where I'm at in my career, if you will. One of the things that I rely on a lot and I go back to a lot is something I learned early on in management when I was managing everyone the exact same. So I was managing everyone on my team the exact same. I had the same expectations for everyone. I wanted the same work product to be delivered from everyone. I was giving everyone the same goals, and that was just wrong. And it just wasn't the right way to manage. And I wasn't getting success from the team. I wasn't getting buy-in from the team. I probably wasn't getting respect from the team. And a huge management lesson for me that I think has carried on beyond management, but in relationships with my colleagues overall, is you can't use a one-size-fits-all approach. And people are different. They get managed differently. They are motivated differently. They turn their work product in differently. And none of that is wrong. It's just different. And so I think that was a huge lesson for me early on that I've applied to many areas of my career, is that you have to play to people's strengths and areas of improvement and learn what they actually are interested in, because people have very different goals in their career and they have very different interests, and they like to be given constructive feedback differently, and they like to tell you feedback differently. And I had some people who maybe weren't comfortable speaking it, but would write me an email with feedback, or vice versa. And I think it's really just focusing on that and learning how your direct reports, but also your colleagues, prefer to be communicated with, is only going to help everyone succeed. That's something I learned early on that I failed at as a manager early on. And now I feel like it's a big focus of mine, like I said, for management, but also for collaboration across other departments and with my colleagues too, and not using a one-size-fits-all approach.
I say that all the time about fans and employees. Like you cannot use a one size fits all.
Oh, for fans, 100%. Yeah. For your clients too, it's so different. And you have to understand how your clients like to be communicated with and what drives them and what is going to matter most to them. So yeah, completely take the internal side of it away, and external, it's just as important for sure.
Yeah. It just causes more work for us, but it's worth it, right? Because at the end of the day, you have a high performing team. And on the other side, you have very happy customers. And when you have very happy clients, they tend to spend more money and want to come back all of the time. But on the employee side, I think it's so important to just take the time to, exactly what you just said. I'm just going to say it differently because why not? But just take the time to get to know your team and know what makes them tick. And then once you do it, you're golden, right? Like once you get it all figured out, you're like, this matters to this person more than it matters to this person. And this is their goal. And I mean, everyone has different goals.
Yes.
And I've tried the same thing. I did a contest once when I was working at the Cubs to like motivate them to get back to emails, like fan emails. That did not go over well. The competitive nature of me, I was like, yes, let's see how many. And it did not. They did not like that. I was like, I'm sorry that we all don't like to be managed like I do. Okay. We don't want a competition. Right. Got it. Like only like one person liked it and that was it. I was like, all right, we'll have to do something different here. It's a great lesson learned. You talked about the feedback. I want to dig into that really quickly. So some people gave you feedback. How is that receiving that? I remember when I was junior, like when I first started out, when I was at the Red Sox, and I got feedback from a peer or somebody like, right below me. I took that so personal then. Now I love it. Please tell me more. But like, then it was really hard. So what was that like for you? And like, how did you receive that feedback?
It's been an evolving process in terms of really taking it as constructive. I think nobody loves to be told that they're doing something wrong or that they've upset someone. I mean, that's not going to make you feel good ever. So I think it's just really focusing on the point of the feedback and where the opportunities of it are so that you're taking it in the right way. And I think for me, something that I changed was that in my monthly one-on-ones with my direct reports, I would just ask them, like, I would open the floor at the end of the meeting and say, okay, floor is yours. What can I do better? What am I doing wrong? What is wrong with the department? Where are areas of improvement? I just gave them open floor with no repercussions because I wanted them to always know that they had that time. But I have tried to always make it clear that those conversations didn't need to wait until our one-on-ones either. They could always bring it to me before then, and I would hope that they would. I don't want something to fester and wait until a scheduled meeting, but I wanted to always at least provide the time for that feedback as well. And if they said nothing, I would push them. So nothing's perfect. Like, there's got to be something that could be going better. Even if you are happy with my management style, great, but what else could be improved? Like, what could be improved in the team environment within our department? What's frustrating to you from an executive level or from a client standpoint? Like, just give me feedback on your job in general, even if you are happy with what I'm doing. And if you're not happy with what I'm doing, like, please tell me right away. So I think that's something that I've tried to implement more, so it isn't the awkward conversations, but it's expected to. And so that they know to come to me, if not in those meetings, then whenever, right away, because I don't want something to fester. And same, I'll try and address something right away as well, because it's not going to be as impactful if you're finding out about it a week later and you don't remember the tone that you had in that meeting and why you're being told about it a week later too. So I try to address things as soon as possible as well on my end.
So you're a Jersey girl. So it seems like you don't, as you're talking, I was like, man, she reminds you of like a lot of people I grew up with. Like, you don't shy away from difficult conversations. It sounds like. No. Like, you have them.
Personality.
Yeah, I know. Yes. So you don't shy away from difficult conversations, and you don't shy away from giving them and delivering the news, but you also are encouraging others to like, tell me what I'm doing wrong. And it sounds like to me, because those conversations could go two ways. Someone could say you're doing something wrong, and you could say, okay, let's talk this out. Because in your head, you're like, this isn't wrong. This is how it is. This is how we operate. Let's talk it out. Or you receive it and you accept the part that you played.
Yeah. And I think it's so true. I mean, I had a conversation 2 weeks ago where I had an employee bring something to me that they're like, well, I don't agree with how you're doing this. And it was exactly to your point. It was, okay, but here's the reason why I'm doing this. And this actually is what's going to happen. And I understand and I'm hearing you, but here's the reasoning. And I think once I helped explain the reasoning, that helped. They may not still have been happy with the outcome, but at least they understood it more and knew that there was a reason to the decision I was making. And then there's absolutely been times where the way that I delivered something did not come across well and was not at all my intention. And I didn't realize it until I was told in the moment. And I appreciate that, because it makes me more conscious of how I'm communicating and what my own personal tone is, and whether I'm letting my personal frustrations get the best of me and come out towards someone else as well. So yeah, there's absolutely times where someone's going to give me feedback and it won't change things because there's a reason that I had to do something. And then there's going to be times where it's eye-opening for me and so important for me to know. But yeah, I'm not going to let things fester. I don't like to be surprised by things. So I'm going to address something right away. For sure.
Yes, that's what makes you a great leader. Like having those conversations, talking about it in the moment, and like that. I mean, that was like a mini masterclass on how to have like high performing teams. We're talking about trust, open door, having difficult conversations, even if it's super uncomfortable, having rich discussions, debate about something that your team might not agree with you on, but being strong enough and courageous enough to stand your ground and be like, here's why. And sometimes being a leader is super lonely, right? Yeah. But giving your team that opportunity, I imagine, right? I don't know your team, but I imagine that it makes them a high performing team. Yeah. Congratulations.
I think they're great. Thanks.
Your team and you are kicking ass over at the Islanders. I love to hear it. All right. I got easy questions for you now. Rapid fire. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. 12 questions. Whatever comes to mind. What is your favorite sports moment?
Oh, winning the World Series, 2016, Cubs.
Oh, yeah.
Easy.
That's a good
I was
one.
there, game 7 in Cleveland. Incredible.
Who did you bring with you?
One of my best friends growing up. Yeah,
Aww.
we each got to bring someone, so it was great.
That's so nice. I love that the Ricketts ownership group. So for those of you who don't know, everyone got a chance to bring someone with them. So if you weren't friends with somebody on social media who worked for the Cubs at the time, you might not have any idea, but it was just so nice to see people bringing their parents and their, their child. Like it was, I loved seeing it. Sure. All right. What is something people always get wrong about you?
I think initial impression is kind of that strong, tough personality that you mentioned. I think I can come across stronger than I intend to sometimes.
Is that you or is it the person receiving it? I'm just going to play with that a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Right?
I think it's me growing up with all boys and working in a male dominated industry and just having this kind of, I don't know if it's a wall or just defense, strong personality that I know that I kind of have to hold my own. And sometimes that can just come across stronger, but then I'm going to be the first person to bake brownies for someone's birthday and send a card for someone's birthday. So I think it's just it's the first impression of me that sometimes I think can be a little bit stronger than who I am at the core.
Right. Yeah. I got to go back to this is supposed to be rapid fire. So you're right. Okay. Like they sometimes get it wrong about you, but they don't, they realize probably very quickly like, she's
nice. Okay.
she means well. And I only ask because I was just thinking about this morning. I was like, God, I've been in sports for 20 years, but the more research I do, the more work I do, the more I see the stronger women, stronger personalities.
Yep.
Right, that come across sometimes in the first meeting the wrong way, have such a difficult time. But on the opposite side, like the men with the strong personalities do not.
Yes.
And
one of my biggest frustrations.
Yes. And so like I've just been, and I've always known this, but just lately there's been something about it where I'm like, this should be getting better. Like there's more women in positions of power and influence now.
Yep.
So you think that it would start to sway the other way, but
the perception is definitely still not equal.
Yeah. People's reactions are not equal. Wait, well, why'd you get mad at her for doing that? But he did it. And it was like, oh, he's so good at his job.
It's that Taylor Swift song, If I Were a Man, that it's every word of that song. I laugh every time I hear it. I'm like, this is the most accurate statement ever.
Yeah. It still takes place. And it's not even, and I'm not talking about men doing it, like it's women who are reacting to women and not even owning their part and realizing, oh, I didn't like that because she came off really strong and aggressive. And maybe I want to be like that. And that's why I'm mad or whatever the case may be. I'm not a psychologist, but you know what I mean? Like there's something always there. That's why I asked that probing question. All right. Moving to question number 3. I can do this. Rapid fire. Here we go. This is so much easier. What is one food you wouldn't want to give up?
Appetizers. I'm not a sweets person, but I will eat every dip or fried item put in front of me. Yep.
I love that. A whole category. Are you a morning or a night person?
Night.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
What job would you absolutely be horrible at doing?
Oh, anything in politics. I am very bad at geography. So if you asked me where any state or country was, I would not answer correctly. So I would be fired right away.
I'm glad to hear it because same. That actually just like made me feel better. I'm like, oh, me too. I thought it was just me.
I think it's what disappoints my dad the most about me is that I don't know where anything is.
What product would you seriously stockpile if you found out they weren't going to sell it anymore?
Oh, that's a good question. This is really silly. There's a Blistex chapstick called Silk and Shine that anytime I see it in a CVS or Walgreens, I buy 4 or 5 of them because it's very hard to find, but it's my favorite chapstick in the world. So Blistex Silk and Shine.
Noted. Maybe I should tag them in this post and they should just send you a ton. What's your favorite app?
Probably Instagram. I'm not a big app user aside from that.
Yeah, me too. I have to put like time limits on mine because it's a little like, it's kind of scary how like I'll just pick up my phone and like, I didn't mean to go on Instagram. Like, how did that even happen?
The only one I really use.
Who's your biggest inspiration in life?
Probably a combo of both my parents. I think they were both very successful and very grounded and just well-rounded, good people. So everything I kind of learned from them. So yeah, combo of mom and dad.
Nice. As a child, I think we know this, but as a child, what did you wish to become when you grew up?
Actress, for sure. That was my goal. Yeah.
All right, there's still time. Finish this sentence. The future of women working in sports is
growing. I think just that simple. I think the opportunities are growing. The Yankees just hired their first manager, I think yesterday, which was incredible. And I think you're just seeing so much more acceptance and different roles being absorbed by women that never would have been thought of probably even 10 years ago. So I think just as simple as growing is what's happening.
This has been a fantastic conversation. I could talk to you all day long. It was awesome to catch up and everyone could hear us catching up. Tell us, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I will respond to all messages there. I'm happy to chat further with anyone, but that's probably the easiest way to reach me.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. I'm so glad that you were here.
Thank you so much. It was so good to talk to you again.
So what did you think of this episode? Do you know another woman who works or is aspiring to work in sports? Would you do me a favor and share this with them? It would mean so much if together we could support and inspire other women on their journey. And let's stay connected. I love meeting and talking to new people. Follow me on Instagram at Jahaan Blake and join the free Game of Her Own community by visiting jahaanblake.com. I can't wait to meet you.